There you are. Lionel looks up from his watch, thumbing the case shut and sliding it into his vest pocket. He leans against the white railing in the one streak of sunlight, his hair bright copper, much like mine, darker than Alice's. The sun reflects in his glasses as he turns to me. His coat is as blue as the sky behind him, as if he had been set by a painter upon his porch. The coat and bright sheen vest provided from the costume closet. A languorous day, the painting might be called. No one the wiser for the setting, no matter the confection of porticos and porches, vine-weaved lattice and wide sunny lawns. Nothing masks the purpose. It is an asylum. And until last night, my sister was an inmate within its walls. Welcome, Kim Taylor Blakemore, the author of After Alice Fell.
Hi. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah.
So this historical fiction is placed in America just after the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness, it's kind of a heart-wrenching psychological thriller and murder mystery all wrapped up in one. And why don't you tell readers a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the story from where you read was near the beginning of the book. So let me do a little setup for that story. So it starts with Marion Abbot, who's our lead in the book, and she is a nurse who's returned from the Civil War. And she's returned as a widow and penniless, and she lives with her brother now. Her brother had committed her sister Alice to an asylum while she was gone in war. And the book opens with Marion identifying her sister's body at the asylum. And the asylum said that she fell from the roof.
Right.
Due to acute mania. And of course, Marion doesn't believe that, and then keeps pushing at the asylum, and they say, well, she actually committed suicide, and she really doesn't believe that. And then the rest of the book takes off with her trying to determine the secrets and lies and everything else and what happened to her sister.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the way you slowly reveal all these little details and things, but Marion is tenacious. She won't quit. She won't take no for an answer. And so she's the main character, Marion Snow Abbott. And she, like you said, was a nurse during the war. And she loved her sister Alice dearly. What did you like best about her?
Well, I think Marion, I think you said the right word. She's tenacious. And when she sinks her teeth into something, she's not letting go. I remember being at a book club with some New Hampshire women, and they said what they loved about Marion was she was a tough as stuff. I was like, I love that. That's Marion, all right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's because she's really driven by wanting forgiveness for leaving her sister with her brother, and forgiveness to Alice, have Alice forgive her from death, and also to forgive herself. And I think that really drives her throughout the book.
Yeah. And let's talk about Alice a little bit, because Alice wasn't, well, she definitely had some mental problems.
Yes. Yeah, so she did. She had mental problems. She stopped speaking when she was 14. The only way she related to people was through art and through, she journaled for herself, and she and Marion were able to communicate together. So she spoke a little bit to Marion until 14, and then she stopped. Everything was handwritten or done in art. And so she lived with Marion. When Marion got married, she took Alice with her. That was part of the agreement with her husband, is that Alice would stay with her, because her brother Lionel and her father didn't want anything to do with Alice. They didn't know how to relate to this girl who basically was a wild child running around the woods and didn't communicate, and made them all pariahs in the small village they're from.
what I thought was really interesting is it sounds like she had some level of autism,
Mhm,
right? But back
mhm.
then that they didn't diagnose people that way at all.
No, and I have the reports from the asylum, the Concord. The state asylum is in Concord, New Hampshire. It was called the New Hampshire Asylum for the Insane. But you can access the reports. Now, of course, in the reports, there's nobody's names. There's no who is at the asylum, but they do list all of the types of people's uh, conditions there. So they were much different names. So there was acute mania, which is what they gave Alice, chronic mania. Epilepsy, of course, was known, so that was in there. There was drunkenness, someone who was a very bad alcoholic who
Yeah.
couldn't exist on the street. Melancholy,
Mhm.
different names like that. So
Well,
they didn't
melancholy
use
would
it.
be more like depression these days, right? Or
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
yeah.
yeah,
So, but I thought you handled it so well, your descriptions and everything. And I loved Alice. You know,
yeah.
she sounded like so sweet. And I believed there was no way she could have committed suicide either. But I won't give anything away.
Yeah, it's like we give anything away when we talk past that point, right?
Yeah, I think so. Um, and the relationships with between Marion and her brother and his wife Kathy, and they have a boy Toby who is about 7, and
Mhm.
those relationships I thought were fascinating and really complex the way you painted them. um, can you give a little bit of background about the family?
Yeah, so as was common in the time period, you would have multiple generations in a family, number one, and you'd have multiple siblings. So if you took someone like Marion, and if that family was bigger, she would be sent from home to home, just like the penniless cousin would go. And in this family, Lionel is the head of the household, and he has a brass factory that he inherited from his father in this small mill town. He's a widower. He had a wife named Lydia. Their son was Toby, and he married another woman after Lydia died, as was common also, so that there was a woman to take care of the children while they were working. And so he married Kathy. So we have the second wife in the house, the first wife's child, Alice, with all her ticks and uniqueness, and all of that sort of stewing together.
Yeah.
And Kathy is very interesting as the second wife because she's not welcomed by the village any more than the family was before her,
Yeah.
because she is the second wife, and because she's not sweet like Lydia was, who had actually reached out to the community and tried to get them. And I think there's a scene in there where they're all at church and everybody turns from them and they feel like they're in a glass bell jar
Yeah. Yeah.
walking to the carriage.
Exactly. That there, no one
Mhm.
will speak to them.
Yeah, so Lionel is responsible for all of them, including Marion when she gets back. So
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting dynamics. And so she feels,
mhm,
it seems like she feels, she has to be in a way kind of subservient, but she doesn't because it was her house. She grew up
mhm,
there.
mhm.
Um, but the dynamics are fascinating to me. Toby reminds Marion a little bit of her sister Alice too. Um,
I love
and
Toby.
yeah, I thought I liked him a lot, and he and Marion bond because of Alice,
Mhm.
because they spent some time together, and I think he liked to create and do things, and they would go out in the woods together. Um, so, uh, talk a little bit about Toby and Marion.
Well, Marion doesn't really like children at the beginning, but he sort of keeps after her, and because she realizes Toby is the connection, the one link to Alice
Hmm.
that's not been spoiled or soiled
Yeah,
or doesn't have anything, because Toby adored Alice, and she would take him into the woods and show him magic in the woods. So he tries to have Marion see that same magic, and so kind of bring the magic of Alice back to her. And then he becomes, as a little boy, sort of her emotional ally throughout the whole story,
Yeah.
even though the whole family is wondering if he has the same mental illness as Alice. So that sort of rides as this very low dread
Right.
underneath.
Yeah, exactly. It's so hard not to give other things away.
I know.
Like I have to hold back a little bit. So how much research did you have to do to get into these details?
Well, I was very lucky as I got to go to New Hampshire twice to do research for this and the companion, the book before that. So I was able to do a lot of research on them at the state library. I had a rock star librarian who got me tons of books and things. And I went to the state archives, then I went around different towns and to all the historical societies and where they're laid out. Because the town I have, Harborough, is based on Peterborough.
Mm.
And then the little town in it, Torrey, is based on Temple. So I had to go to these places, really wanted to. I love New Hampshire, by the way. For anybody from New Hampshire, I love your state. I do. I'm in love with it. And so a lot of research into topography and how the mill worked and how the towns would work at the time. And then the asylum itself, I wanted to get into. So the asylum it's not, my asylum is based on the asylum in Concord, but a smaller version in this rural town. And I really wanted to get in there. And I contacted my rock star librarian. I said, how do we get into the asylum? Part of it is being used as government buildings, and part of it is falling apart. And so we tried to get in, and the manager of it said it's not safe, whatever. So I used Google Maps, and you can do the 3D, so you can fly right above it. And because I'd driven by it and the archives were right there, that's the first time I knew it was there. It's like, oh my God, I'm right at the asylum. It's crazy. So I used that to fly above it, and I could lay out where things were. So what you see in my book is the same kind of H-shaped building. Is it an H? No, it's a U. The two wings, men and women, and the buildings behind it. So I really wanted to get in. I did. I didn't get in.
But I imagine, were there pictures or anything online that you were able to find, like historical?
Yes. So when I got back after doing the thing, seeing it on Google and seeing the building, there were a few historical pictures, not very many for that one. It was harder to find. So it was really looking. I did find a book on 19th century asylums in Canada that gave me an idea of the treatments that were used during the period. So the asylums, particularly in New Hampshire, that asylum was built by Quakers in 1844. And the point was to have a place for people where they could have quiet and industry. So it served itself. It had its own farm, it had its own laundry, it had its own cooking, it had its own crops, everything. So that was I didn't know that the Quakers were the ones that started that. And I was glad that I changed the asylum from that asylum to a fake one, because I don't want to put things on people that are real that weren't true. So I didn't want to make the head of the real asylum, who I did not have knowledge of, make him a bad guy.
Right.
And ruin his reputation in real life, if that makes any sense. It's
right.
An odd thing to me to do.
I totally agree. I mean,
even though the book I'm writing now has Pearl Hart, and I'm just like making her up completely. So I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it makes sense as an author. You don't want to badmouth somebody, even if it is fiction. You don't want to portray somebody who might have been really there in a bad light.
And I couldn't do it. So I was very glad to move it and say, okay, these are my characters in it. So I could have some bad guys and I could have good guys. So there's very good people working in the asylum.
Yeah.
I think.
So is it
Kitty,
hard
for
you to draw the line between your historical fiction and what really happened? The real places?
I don't know. That's an interesting line, isn't it? It kind of moves around.
Yeah. I mean, as creators, I feel like it is, because like I have some characters that may or may not be based on real people.
Yeah, and I don't use any real people.
Uh-huh.
So, or I haven't so far.
No. And what I'm
So-
saying is I take like attributes from people that I know, and
Oh, like real
make-
people in real life that you know.
yeah.
I don't know if I do that. I really don't. I think I'm, I come from theater, so I really just sort of build people from scratch.
Yeah.
And then if they have attributes I probably couldn't see, if it was like my best friend going, "Why did you put that in there about me?" I'd be like, "I did."
No, but then you hear other
I'm
authors.
I'm not like super like, look at all these people I know, go, I'm gonna use that, I'm gonna use that. I can't. It's just not, I'm not aware enough.
I don't think that's true. So are all of your historical mysteries placed in the same time period, or?
They're the three that I have. So the companion is set in 1855. So they're all in the same town at different points. So the companion is 1855. After Alice Fell is 1865. And the book coming up, The Deception, is 1877. And then I'm going to go crazy and I'm going to move an hour and a half north from there for the next book and into 1907.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. I'm really moving, traveling.
But it seems like that's your niche, and that you're doing it so well.
Oh, thank you very much. They're dark. I think
Yeah,
they're very dark.
that's
So
probably why I'm drawn to it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know why. I love that genre, and they're not really mysteries. I don't think I write mysteries. I think I just, kind of who did it at any time. But they're more why done it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's very good. Anyway,
Well,
well,
thank
you let your readers know where to find you.
Okay, so you can find me online at kimtaylorblakemore.com or on Instagram at kimtaylorblakemore.books.
Great. Well, thank you so much for doing this
Thank
interview
you.
for Blackbird Writers Presents, and we'll see you around soon.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.